today we're gonna draw Pete the cat. If you don't know who Pete the cat is, this is Pete the cat, and this is Pete the cat. There are many Pete the cat stories. They are super fun little stories, and it turns out Pete the cat is also super fun to draw. So let's take a closer look at Pete the cat before we draw him and get all of our art supplies together, okay? Okay, let's take a closer look at Pete the cat before we draw him. We're gonna be drawing Pete the cat's head, okay? So let's take a look at like the details, the big details and the small details. So when I'm looking at Pete the cat, I see that he's pretty much the same on both sides. Like if I drew a line down the center, he has whiskers on both sides, eyes on both sides, and ears on both sides. But if I look really close, I can see that they're not the exact same. One eye is a little bit lower. These whiskers maybe are a little bit higher on this side. And every time that this artist draws Pete the cat, it looks a little bit different. That's one of my favorite parts about Pete the cat, is that he's not the exact same every time we see him. So that means today when you draw Pete the cat, it's not gonna look just like the book or just like mine, but that is what's so cool about Pete the cat, and it's gonna be just perfect, okay? So let's flip inside and look at a little bit more. Let's talk a little bit about the style of Pete the cat, okay? So the artist, James Dean, he uses this sort of, it's not really scribbly, but it's kind of just quick, sketchy style. And the way that he creates these sort of textured black lines that you see everywhere is he uses a skinny pen. And I'm gonna demonstrate today with a really skinny pen, but if you wanna just use a pencil or a crayon, that's okay. You can use whatever you'd like to draw. So I noticed that he uses that style. And then after that, he paints his drawings in. I also notice if I'm just looking at the head of Pete the cat, right? Just the big area. It's about the shape of a rectangle, right? It's about that same shape. So I know that I'm gonna need that space, about a rectangle shaped space, to draw Pete the cat's head. So why don't we go ahead and get started with that. I'm going to scoot Pete over here so you can still see him, but then I'm also gonna get out my piece of paper. So I've got a rectangle shaped piece of paper here. This is a normal size piece of printing paper. If you have a skinny pen at home to draw with, that would be really fun, but if you don't, that's okay. Now, if you are allowed to use this skinny pen, we have to be really gentle with it because it has a really small tip, and if you press too hard, you can break it. So if you do get to use this pen, make sure that you're pressing really gentle, okay? And before we start with our pen, I'm going to suggest that maybe we fold our paper in half. You see how Pete the cat, he has kind of like a center line, right, in the middle where his nose is. And I think that's gonna help us maybe draw nice and big. So I'm gonna go ahead and fold my piece of paper in half. If you need help from an adult at home to do this, or a big brother or sister, you can pause the video and ask them for help at that part. And then I'm gonna unfold it. Can you see my line? Yeah, we can see it. Okay. And now I'm gonna go ahead and start drawing Pete the cat. I know he's about a rectangle shape. I've got my rectangle shape on my paper here, so we can go ahead and get started. The first thing I'm gonna do is draw the sides of Pete the cat's head, okay? Now I see that his whiskers go out from the sides of his head, so I have to make sure to leave a little space for those whiskers. So I'm gonna start at the top and I'm gonna draw a line that comes almost all the way to the bottom, okay? And if that line isn't perfectly straight, that actually is kind of cool because it's kind of the way that Pete the cat's head is formed. And I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. If you need to point with a finger or even make a dot, or have mom or dad make a dot for you so you know where to draw, that's fine. Okay, so now we've got the sides of his head. All right, great. So now I notice that his head comes down to make his ears. We've got 2 diagonal lines that come towards the center to make his ears, right? So if you can just go ahead and draw straight down diagonally, you can do that. But if you want to make yourself a dot so you know where to go, you can do that as well. Now we're going to connect the top of his head. It's sort of a curved line, not really straight. So let's kind of curve that. And let's pretend, oh, oops, I didn't make it. Oh no, I could freak out, but I'm not going to freak out. I'm just gonna connect it, and that is just fine, just like that, okay? All right, next, we're going to draw the bottom of his head, okay? And I'm gonna turn my paper, because sometimes that's nice for me. When I have to draw a big line, it's hard for me to draw this way. So I like to turn my paper because it's easier for me to draw that way. We all have different things that we like to do when we do art. So if you ever feel like you need to turn your paper, you can do that. All right, now I've got the bottom of his head. He's got a little skinny neck. So we're gonna draw just a line all the way down to the edge of the paper. And that's gonna be his skinny neck. Okay, now we can go in and start doing the details. I noticed right at the center, so where you made your fold line, right towards the bottom of his head, that's where his little nose is. That's where his little nose is. So we're gonna draw his nose. We're gonna draw a V straight from the bottom and then connect it on top. Okay. After that, we're gonna do his eyes, and he has big kind of oval shaped eyes, right? So I'm gonna start straight from that center line again, and I'm gonna make a big curved line. And then I'm gonna make another curved line below it and connect those 2 lines to make a shape. And I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. And remember, if your eyes aren't the exact same, that is okay. That is actually just like the artist does it. They do not have to be perfect or the exact same. Okay, now we need to make the details in Pete the cat's eyes. He has pupils and irises. That's that area on the inside of your eyeball. So that's kind of like, what would that be? Maybe a U shape or a V shape, kind of like that, right? Oh, very nice. Lots of curved lines on Pete the cat, right? And now I think we're just missing his whiskers. So if you don't have a lot of space for the whiskers, that's okay. You can make them look like they're going off your paper. If you have a lot of space for whiskers, make them extra long. That's good. Okay, so you can stop here and keep your Pete the cat just like that, especially if you used crayon or marker. I would stop here. Now, if you use this little pen, you could go in and do it just like the artist James Dean does. And he goes in, he makes these sort of sketchy lines like this, short, sketchy lines. I'm gonna do half of mine so you can see the difference. So this is how he does his Pete the cat before he paints it. This is a nice fun style. It makes it actually look kind of like he's furry, right? Okay, so now you can see the difference between this style. This is James Dean's style that he does before he paints it. And then this is just regular drawing, which is also fun. So how you choose to finish this is up to you. I'm gonna show you some samples. I think I'm going to finish doing the textured James Dean style on this and then paint it. But I have some other ones to show you as well. So here's one that I painted to make it look just like Pete the cat. And for this one, I used just a regular Sharpie to draw with. I did have to mix to make it look like Pete the Cat's eyes. I had to mix orange and yellow to get that color. And then I decided it might be kind of fun to do a silly one. So I did Pete the Cat as an alien. And this one I did just marker. I drew with just a regular marker and then colored in with regular markers. And I did him just in different colors, kind of make him look sort of extraterrestrial. And then I cut him out and glued him on a piece of paper that I had splatter painted on. So that's a fun option too. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with for your Pete the Cat. And I think I'm gonna finish painting my Pete the Cat here. And I can't wait to see your Pete the Cats. If you need more ideas, make sure you check out the file that's next to this video. And happy creating, artists. See you later.